Welcome to the Rookie Realtor Reality Podcast with your hosts, Amir Hunter
and Bailey Weaver Packard.
With so many people thinking that realtors just look at beautiful homes and post on Instagram, this podcast brings you back to reality. This podcast explores the good, the bad, and the in between.
We're both with eXp Realty, so our experience may be different than yours, but over time we'll have other agents, past clients, and others in the real estate industry, such as inspectors, builders, lenders, and more.
So today we have a guest today, Lauren Hardy, who is a real estate investor with a unique method of investing in multiple states. Lauren is also a co-host of the #1 wholesaling podcast, Wholesaling Incorporated, and has over 350 students to go through her coaching program, Virtual Investing Mastery. How are you doing today, Lauren?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. So before we jump in, every week we kind of do wins and losses, and you don't have to jump in on this portion at all.
Put you on the spot.
Unless you want to, but we always talk about wins and losses because I think it's important that people understand that, hey, you're going to have some ups and downs in real estate. And so Bailey, you want to start it off with, we'll start off with loss so we can finish with win.
I feel like my most recent loss is that I had an inspection go way over and we were late starting this podcast, but that's real estate life for you.
Yeah. You got to figure it out.
Yes.
So I think for me, I guess I'm thinking it's going to be a loss, and I'm supposed to close the house on Monday, but I just don't see things kind of lining up to happen.
Oh, gosh.
And so we're trying to communicate to try to do a buyer possession before closing. So hopefully we can kind of figure it out.
Find a solution there.
Yeah.
Good.
Any wins? Yeah.
Yes, my win. I got a first-time home buyer under contract on the first house that they offered on. We did do a little bit of negotiating back and forth, but we got them under contract, and they were ones that said, we don't need to be in a house for another year. And I'm like, oh, excellent. Then they send me a house, and they're like, this is the one, we got to have it, and we got them under contract.
Yeah, well, that's good. You didn't have to sit there and nurture the relationship for a long time.
No, we were already friends, so that worked out. They already knew me. What about you?
So I guess the win would be we got an appraisal back, and we bid $75,000 over on the home, and the house appraised for $20,000 more than what we were under contract for. So I'll take that as a win all day long.
Heck yeah, that's great. What about you, Lauren? Do you want to jump in with wins and losses?
Oh yeah, sure. I'll jump in. Recent loss I'm still real bitter about, happened about 2 weeks ago. We had a deal in escrow, and I was going to net $30,000 on this deal. And because of the interest rate shifts, our buyer's underwriting criteria has changed.
Oh no.
And they're an investor, they're a hedge fund. So it's a little different world.
Sure.
But to keep it easy, they've changed their buy box, and the deal does not pencil for them anymore, and they walked away. And so I lost my, it was going to be a $30,000 deal. So I had to say goodbye to that one.
Oh, that's
what
hard.
deal was that state in, Lauren?
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do they not have like due diligence out there?
No, we do, but in our world, which is a lot different than yours, I sell to repeat the same people. I sell to investors who are buying, 20 houses a month.
Yeah.
So I have a relationship with this buyer. Of course, I'm not going to go after them in any way.
Right.
It was one of those, all right, that sucks. I'm going to have to lick my wounds. And,
Yeah.
but such an interesting, sign of the times, cause it would have gone through if that deal closed, or if, the deal didn't take so long in escrow, they would have closed on it, but interest rates going up kind of changed everything for them. Wow. So that's my loss. Took me a minute to get through that one. And then, win this week, we got another good one under contract. We're still inspecting it, but it's a good little deal. So
what state is that one in?
Pennsylvania.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining in on that. Yeah. Put you on the spot there.
Yeah, I had to think of something real quick. I was like, there's something. What's the last thing that
you did great
that you almost cried over?
Yeah.
That's funny.
So Lauren, I know we've kind of done a little bit of research on you, but tell us about yourself, where are you now, and how long you've been in the business and what you kind of specialize in.
Yeah. So I live in Orange County, California,
Wow.
and I invest out of state. And I've been a real estate investor for 10 years. I started when I was 25 years old and I'm 35 years old. So been around for a bit. I've been around for a full market cycle, it seems like. I feel like my first flip I ever bought was the last day of the recession.
Wow.
and I've rode this cycle all the way and here we are. And it feels very much like we're at the top. I do everything. I've kind of had a bunch of, I've got a lot of different experience in different niches of real estate investing. I wholesale houses, I fix and flip, I've built houses, and I've kept some rentals.
Wow. So you've got your feet in everything.
A little bit of everything. And I've been in like 6 different markets. So yeah, it's been fun.
Good. We're excited to dive in deeper and explain what all this is
Yeah.
to everybody.
So I guess let's just jump in.
Yeah.
So tell us like what virtual investing like kind of encompasses. I know we read a little bit about it from you, but for our guests that don't know anything about like wholesaling and virtual investing, what does that entail?
Yeah. So, assuming that your listeners are realtors, okay, I work a world that is pretty unfamiliar to realtors. I work the off market world, okay? So, I personally have only bought, I think, one house that was listed on the MLS of the hundreds of houses that I have purchased and sold. And that was the one I actually lived in. So,
Fascinating.
so as far as my investment life, not all real estate transactions happen on the MLS with realtors. There's a lot of off-market activity that goes on. One of the business models that I'm involved in, and this goes under the real estate investment umbrella, we call this wholesaling. And the term wholesaling is a jargon term, okay? It isn't a legal term. If you say this to a real estate attorney, they might look at you with a blank stare, have no idea what you're talking about. But if you say the term contract assignments, they will light up. So what I do is I will market to sellers directly. Now I'm going to go so micro to explain the process. Marketing could be a TV sign. It could be a billboard ad. It can be a mailer to their house. It could be a cold call. And I work those seller leads and I put them under contract at a price that is usually at a very good discount, something that would be appealing to a fix and flip investor, those HGTV shows you see, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when I get that property under contract, it is my choice to either buy it myself, and in which case I might fix it up myself and flip it like HGTV, or I might keep it as a rental property. Or the other option is I could try selling this contract to another investor that is going to do one of those things.
Wow. Okay.
So wholesaling is when I sell my contract, which we call that equitable interest. I sell my equitable interest in a purchase contract to an end buyer who would be another investor. Now, those types of investors, they're all different types of people. Some of them are like mom and pop landlords. Some of them are institutional hedge fund type buyers, like private equity. These guys are, kind of up there. Look up like Blackstone Group, those types of entities, those outfits. I will sell to them.
Okay.
So I do, I do all of those things, right? I'm a buyer myself, but I also have that option to sell my equitable interest and make a quick fee on, that transaction as well.
Right.
So I've been involved in that business for the last 10 years. And I do it currently I'm in 2 different states total, though I've been in about 6 different markets total. Wow. The reason I go out of state is because California is really difficult to get a deal there. It's not a really good investment area.
I believe
The prices are just way too high. Where are you guys from?
We're in the Raleigh-Durham area.
of North
Oh,
Carolina.
okay. You guys are getting there. You guys
Yeah.
are,
very fast.
Yes.
yes. You
Might
guys are
need
in
to
an area
understand.
where it's starting to become hard to invest as well.
Yeah.
Correct.
Absolutely. So California has way been that way for a very, very long time. And the price point, it's expensive to live here. People want to live here. There's such a demand just to live in California for this real estate that investors are, we can't find good deals. It's a little difficult. So it's just easier to pick out of state markets when
Right.
you live in California.
That makes sense. And when you said wholesale earlier, Amir and I both have worked with investors who buy from the wholesalers. So
Mhm.
that lingo definitely resonated with us.
Yeah.
And then they flipped it and we listed them.
And I've worked
Yeah.
with some investors that have gotten to situations where it was like an assignment of contract. But in that situation, it wasn't great for my client. Just didn't feel, I guess, secure for my clients in that situation. But it's always good to kind of learn, and hopefully we'll learn a ton more in this podcast, because I do work with a ton of investors, especially cash investors, that this may be something that they may eventually want to jump into too as well.
Yeah. And that's exactly, you nailed it. Assignment of contract is wholesaling. So it sounds like your investors just never worked with the wholesaler before. So they didn't understand it, and that it would really benefit you as a, realtor who's kind of helping your client. Cause then you're going to get the listing, right? So you put them at ease that no, this is a very common practice. This is happening all over the country, very common, it's legal. Just Google contract assignments. It's a thing. Don't stress,
Right.
and guide them through the transaction.
Definitely.
So you said you started this when you were 25. How did you get into, I guess, this market and flipping homes?
Yeah. So when I was 25, I was working a corporate job. I was working in real estate, but it was more on the commercial side.
Okay.
And it was just a salary corporate job. And it really wasn't going anywhere. I felt real dead end. Granted, it was, in the throes of the recession. So it wasn't the best timing to be in real estate.
Sure.
I was lucky to have a salary job, to be quite honest.
Right.
But it I just knew it wasn't really going anywhere for me. I didn't really know how to work the corporate politics. I was kind of stuck at a salary that I just didn't see going up very much. And most importantly, I just had my daughter, and I was learning that being a mom and working a corporate job is really, really hard.
Oh, I
So
believe it.
I was willing to do anything just to have flexibility. I wanted to be able to work from home so I could see my kid more.
Mhm.
And it's funny when you look back at it, it's just so funny how we can become forgetful and ungrateful of where we came from. Because 10 years ago, my goal was just to work from home. I did not care about how much money I made. I just needed to be able to pay my bills. And what that looked like, I needed to be able to replace my income minus the daycare costs, because I wasn't going to put my kids in daycare, right?
Yeah.
So at this time, when I did the math, I'll never forget the math, right? I was making around $55,000 a year.
Okay.
And I said, okay, so I had just found out I'm pregnant with my second kid. So I said, 2 kids daycare expenses.
Sure.
What's that going to look like? I really only needed to bring in about $36,000 a year for it to be a wash, to be the same thing as me working from home. So I needed a work from home gig that I could make at least 36 grand, and I could stay at home with my kids and keep the expenses paid on my end. I was married at the time, so that was my end.
Got it.
So that was my start. And I worked my corporate job while I was pregnant with my second kid. I did a full year of doing both. I started, flipping houses, getting into that flipping industry. I had 2 successful flips under my belt, and I had saved up enough money to be able to afford to quit my full-time job and have some in the bank in case things didn't work out my second year.
Right.
So
I think that's
that
a
was
good
my starting
takeaway, that, for somebody who wants to get into flipping houses that has another full-time job, to start it while you're with that full-time job and not walk away until you know what you're getting into.
For sure. Because first of all, this business might not be for you.
Right.
That is one of the biggest things I see. I personally have a coaching program, and I've coached over 350 people, and I know this isn't for everyone.
Right.
And they get into it thinking it's HGTV and it's
Yes.
Tarek and Christina, and it's picking out backsplashes and all that. And it's like, no. It is sales and marketing. It is 95% sales and marketing and 5% all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
So, when you're getting into, a lot of people don't realize same with being a realtor, it's not what you think. It really is sales and marketing, because you need to get those listings.
Exactly.
So go back to, I guess, your first flip, and tell us like what that first flip experience was like.
Yeah. Okay. So I made the deal with my brother that we would do it together, because he had a couple years flipping experience at this point. So I got the idea for my brother to start flipping houses. And I got the property under contract by mailing. I did direct mail. I mailed sellers just a basic letter, hi, I'm buying houses, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
A seller eventually approached me. I actually had to make a lot of offers to sellers. A lot of sellers, called back on those mailers. And eventually after 4 months, I got a seller to finally say yes to one of my offers. So it took me 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah, it took me 4 months to get a seller to agree to my price. And in hindsight, I look back and I was offering too low. I could have came up on my offer prices. I didn't know what I was doing. I sounded very unconfident. I was scared. You could hear a tremor in my voice every time I talked to a seller. So, finally got a deal, finally got a nice seller to believe in me. And it was real straightforward. I bought it. I joke, it was like the last day of the recession, because when I bought it, it went up in value 10%. It was at that time at the bottom of the market back in 2012, where just real estate values started shooting up real quick. So in our whole time, values were already up 10% in Orange County. And so we ended up doing really well. We spent like maybe $35,000 in the construction. Construction prices have changed a lot since then.
Inflation is real right now.
That would have been a lot more. It'd probably be, I don't know, 70,000 now, who knows? But we spent about 35,000 on the deal, and we ended up netting about 65,000 when we were done flipping it. And my brother and I split that.
Excellent. So did you sell it? You sold it?
Yep.
Oh, that's exciting. I love going back to the first time, because I'm sure now you've got it down to a science, and it's fun to think back to those days when you were figuring it out.
So how do you determine? Oh,
go ahead.
So how do you determine which market is right, I guess, for somebody to invest in?
That's a great question. So not all markets are equal, and there are definitely some markets that you probably have no business trying to be an investor in. The big question to ask is, first of all, what kind of investor do you want to be? Are you going to be a flipper? Do you want to be a developer, or do you want to buy rentals? A lot of people will start with sort of, I want to eventually one day have rentals. Most people kind of have that long-term goal that they want to retire with, a rental portfolio, and they want that financial freedom. They want to build wealth. So if you're looking for a rental, friendly area, you got to ask, can I buy could the average property here, could I buy it? Could I get a loan on it? And if I rented it out, would I cash flow? And there are a lot of areas that you can't do that anymore. I don't know about Raleigh, Durham. I'm curious, right? Would you cash flow anymore there?
You can, but it's a lot difficult. It's pretty difficult. I mean, I think your price margins are a lot slimmer than what they were. I think if you would have bought maybe 2 years ago, we've seen, I think I read an article today, it was 30% increase in rent in the last 2 years in Raleigh, Durham. So if you would have bought 2 years ago, you're probably in great position. But right now, I think it's kind of hard at the certain sales price point, because we've grown maybe like 24% in sales price in a year.
Yeah, but we have so many people from California and whatnot purchasing investment properties here. So I think it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, the rent's only going to continue to increase with the demand. And I think Facebook has just agreed with Meta coming to Durham. We have Apple coming to RTP. So all the big companies are coming to the Research Triangle Park.
Mhm.
This might be a new area for you, Lauren. Raleigh might
And
be your new
now, so
place.
Raleigh, in my opinion, would be more of your flipper developer market, but
Yeah.
not so much a landlord market, because now if you're buying, the average home, it's not renting for enough to cash flow after you pay your mortgage. So
Gotcha.
that's what happens when you're in areas where the prices are starting to appreciate at, like you said, 25% in 1 year. You're now getting to a zone where like the rent isn't quite appreciating as fast as the home value. More people are buying in that area and investing and moving, like you said, from California or whatever. So it's driving up the purchase price, especially with interest rates increasing.
Yeah.
So I would say Raleigh was at one time where, you could definitely buy rentals there, but it seems like it's kind of phasing out, and it's now more of your flipper developer market where your best like say use for the property would be to fix it up and then boom, resell it for a monster profit. But there's still plenty of other areas, that are, under $200,000 that rent really well. Oklahoma City, many places in Texas, like I could think of some, Indianapolis, like there's so many markets that you can really make sense. Another kind of quick and dirty term is like the rent to price ratio.
Okay.
So like, is the rent that you can charge on a house in Raleigh, like think of like an average house in Raleigh, is the rent 1% of the purchase price?
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah.
if say the average house is $500,000, can you rent it for 5,000?
Yeah, you can't.
No.
But are there, so
Yeah.
so that 1% ratio is often that indicator of, are you able to leverage and buy, get a loan and pay the mortgage? And if it's, so you want like above 1%, you want 1% or above.
Got
And
it.
so like California, I'll give you like an example. I was renting. Okay, I'll give you a perfect example. The house I'm living in now. I was going to use the one before, and now I'm renting right now because I sold my house.
Okay.
So, the house I'm living in right now would probably go for about 1.5 million. Okay, and I'm renting it for $4,000. So like very much not the 1%. I don't know what rule that would be. The 0.2%. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm bad at math. I'm not doing it in my head. So that kind of gives you an indicator of like, this is not a landlord market. So if I'm going to build that rental portfolio, if that's your dream, you're not going to do it in these kind of markets.
Yeah.
You got to go to a lower price point market where you can get that 1% or better.
Yeah.
And in some areas, there's better 2% ratios still happen.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of our rural areas, maybe like a county or two over from Raleigh, you can make the numbers work. Actually had an investor and her numbers were pretty good. I think probably over 2% on hers, just because of the proximity it is and the way that it's growing. So there's like Wake County here, right next to us, Johnson County. They used to be like this very rural area, and now like the numbers are skyrocketing over there. But the county right next to is Wayne County with Goldsboro, and their numbers are pushing up like pretty close to where Johnson County is, but they're still so far behind Raleigh right now that you can still buy and invest down there. And eventually it is going to be, just because we're running out of area and space.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you'll see that. So I'll see that with my buyers, because like in the wholesale business, I pay attention to what my buyers do. There were times where like in Oklahoma City, they wouldn't go to these like certain cities. I can't off the top of my mind think of like one. There's like one I'm thinking of specifically that I remember, like buyers would touch a deal out there. And then now all of a sudden they're like, fine, okay, like
We're
we'll
back.
buy. And that's what's going to happen. So you probably have rural areas that are the suburbs of, like the city, like, or more rural, that now you're seeing investment activity happen.
Yep. What recommendations do you have to somebody who wants to invest but doesn't have a ton of money to do so?
So I had no money. I was broke. I started the business with a credit card, but I got really good at raising money. So all the money that I invest, I never buy flips with my own money, really. If I can, I mean, if I might do it just quick to close on it, but then I always put one of my investors' funds in it. And so get good at raising money. You don't have to have money. You just have to know people. And partner with someone who's an experienced flipper, find the deal for them and they'll come with the money. So try to find like a mentor, an experienced flipper, who's doing it. And they can come with the funds. That's what I did.
Yeah.
That's helpful.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think a lot of people are intimidated. They want to jump into investing, but they're like, I don't have the money to do it. Like, how do I get into the business?
Because you know what? Yeah, that's the part that they miss on HGTV shows.
Yeah.
They never talk about that. It's always, they always act like it's those people's using their own money, and it's not. They're not using, none of them are using their own money. Everyone is getting loans.
Yeah, that's not the entertaining part though.
No, yeah.
It's not the pretty part. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you juggle, I guess, being a single mom and running your business?
Oh, well, I don't.
Yeah.
It is a constant struggle. I constantly audit my day and my schedule and how I'm spending my time. And I'm glued to my calendar, and I'm looking at my calendar and I'm making sure, I time block, time for things that need to get done. But it is a struggle. It's almost a sport for me at this point, like trying to figure out, like, how am I going to get this all in,
Right.
So, I mean, I have found some things that work as far as my schedule goes today, but it might change. It might not work for me, in 6 months for whatever reason. But I will share, if you're interested, like the daily schedule that works for me right now.
Yes, I love schedules.
So,
yes.
so Bailey time blocks, and she has she writes down every single thing.
Oh, yes.
So
I'm excited.
Anything schedule related, that's all Bailey.
Yeah,
I love all of that. Like, what's your day look like? What do you eat? When do you eat? I'm like, love all that stuff. So a real game changing thing happened when I started waking up at like 5:15, 5:30.
Yes.
When I started doing that, I really became more productive, because granted, I have to fall asleep earlier. Yes, I do, but nothing productive happens at night anyway. Nothing. You're just watching TV. You're not doing anything productive anyway.
Yeah. And your client should be sleeping then too.
Exactly. So I am at my computer by 6 a.m. I get up, I walk the dogs. My kids are still asleep, and I'm at the computer. And from 6 to 7 o'clock, I can get a lot of uninterrupted work done. So sometimes that's a focus project where it's like, hey, I need to focus on something and knock something out. Or sometimes it's just, I call it like money-making activities, or certain things I do that bring money in, and I can do that for at least 1 hour.
Okay. We do the same.
Then I get the kids up from 6 to about 8:15, or 7 from 8:15 at school, getting them school lunches, whatever, taking them to school. And then I'm back at my office by about 8:30 in the morning. And then I continue with the focus hour. I recently, as of a week ago, because I started realizing, I was like, I cannot do the money-making activities. Everyone needs to write down, if you only could do 3 things to generate an income, you only could do 3 things. What are those 3 things? And you should be doing those 3 things for 3 hours a day. You would make a lot of money if you did those things.
Wow.
Yeah.
Problem is, we don't do that. In fact, if you probably timed yourself, you probably do your money-making activities 13 minutes a day.
Wow.
Because you get drawn into things, and the money-making activities, they're not fun things. They're not, they're often the hardest part of your job.
Right.
So you avoid it by like getting in on meetings and getting tied into stuff, or, stuff that doesn't make money, right? Admin work, whatever. Yeah. So I noticed I was really starting to not get any of the money-making activities. So I recently just said, I do not want to be scheduled on anything until afternoon my time. I said this or this week, I finally put my foot down and blocked my calendar. So that's why we're talking right now. But going forward, we would not be.
Thank you for making an exception.
Well, I know. Well, I had things booked. I was like, okay, but no, for going forward, like I need that 6 a.m. to noon to
Mhm.
focus on making our company money. And that's it. And then your questions, the team meetings, the, all that stuff that you get pulled into the fires, the putting out the fires can happen afternoon.
Got it.
So
That's good.
my thinking is that if it can wait till afternoon, the fire will be put out by then.
That's perfect. You can control so much of your day in the beginning,
Yeah.
and then the afternoon is when it gets crazy.
Let me ask you this question. Do you ever get concerned about investing when you physically can't see the home?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, who's your boots on the ground? How are you doing that?
I do have boots on the ground.
Okay.
So the boots on ground situation kind of looks, different at different times. Recently I just made a full-time hire in Pennsylvania because we started getting so busy there that we really needed it. And I was having a really hard time managing, our flips there. So I needed a full-time kind of like project manager, kind of construction manager guy. So we now have full-time help, but I was using realtors. I call them runners to take photos and video,
Mhm.
stuff like that. But yeah, absolutely. It can get really tricky.
So I guess you kind of answered our other question. I was like, how you're able to invest outside your own state, but it sounds like you have people on the ground that are kind of helping
Mhm.
in those aspects. So for, I guess, anybody that's listening and they're like, hey, I'm kind of on the fence about, doing this investing, or I really like what Lauren has to say today. Like, what would you tell them?
Well, if you want to find me on social media and, kind of see what I'm about, you can go to my Instagram page. It's This Mom Flips. And I have a YouTube channel where I post a ton of videos, lots of how to and interviews, interviews with other investors. So find me at Lauren Hardy on YouTube. I do host a podcast called Wholesaling Inc. And we do have coaching through Wholesaling Inc. So my coaching program is all about investing virtually out of your, out of your state or out of your backyard. So if you are interested in the coaching, go to virtualinvestingmastery.com.
You might see Bailey's name on there because she loves a good coach.
Yeah, I do. I love, oh my gosh, investing in yourself and your business is huge.
Yeah,
It's the best thing to do.
Oh my God. I think me and Bailey are very similar. In our,
I
we have that
know.
same brain. Like we love schedules and we
Yes.
like
Oh yeah.
self-development and audio books.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm right there with you. I love a podcast. So I'm gonna add yours into the mix.
I love a podcast.
Yes.
I know.
I'm in California. We're gonna hang out.
Do you bullet journal? Are you a bullet journaler?
No, but now I think I might need to start.
Oh my gosh, look up bullet journaling. Like I feel like I can get you in on all these rabbit holes.
Yeah. I'm a big note taker. Like I like to cross things off my list. So I'm gonna look that up. Thank you. Cool.
Well, thanks for coming on the podcast today. And we really appreciate it. I think we've learned so much today about virtual investing and wholesaling and
juggling life and
assignments
business.
and contracts and everything.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that's definitely going to help some of our listeners, and I think even help us, in our business too, as well, with what you've taught us today. So we really appreciate you coming on today.